Drivers Series training module on Department of Transportation Safety and Compliance. The Department of Transportation has regulations designed to ensure the safety of professional drivers and the motoring public. Every driver should be knowledgeable of and comply with the regulations contained in the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations Handbook, which are applicable to his or her motor carrier's operations. All commercial motor vehicle operators must have knowledge of safe operating regulations and of the driver-related elements of regulations contained in these parts of this subchapter displayed here. These parts cover subject matters such as motor vehicle inspection, repair, and maintenance requirements. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations Handbook also states each driver is ultimately responsible for making sure the vehicle he or she drives is in safe operating condition. Federal and state laws require that you do not drive a vehicle unless you are satisfied it is in a safe operating condition. Worn, failed, or incorrectly adjusted components can cause or contribute to accidents. Preventive maintenance and periodic inspection help to prevent failures from occurring while a vehicle is operated. According to these federal regulations, drivers of commercial vehicles should perform daily pre-trip and documented post-trip inspections. Performing these inspections ensures commercial vehicles are roadworthy and reduces maintenance-related collisions. Professional drivers must be able to identify each safety-related part on the vehicle and explain what needs to be inspected to ensure a safe operating condition of each part, including the engine compartment, the cab engine start, steering, suspension, brakes, tires and wheels, the side of the vehicle, the rear of the vehicle, and special features of the tractor-trailer if used for the road test.
We're here to talk about proper pre-trip and post-trip. So let's go ahead and divide the pre-trip into outside the van and then inside the cab as well. So we're going to start with the outside pre-trip first. You just want to follow me. So we're going to start here. We're going to look at the tires, okay? We're going to look at these treads to make sure that the tires have proper treads. Minimum tread depth for our front steering tire is 4/32. Then we're going to go down to these and make sure that your lug nuts are tight. You feel them all. And then you're also going to look for any type of rust stains. If you see rust stains here, that could mean that these lug nuts are not tight enough. Next, we're going to swing over here a little bit. We're going to look at our leaf springs. We're going to make sure that these leaf springs are not cracked. And then if you can focus down over there, we're going to look at our U-bolts. The U-bolts, make sure that the U-bolts are not cracked or worn out. Okay, coming around the front, we already have our lights on. So part of our pre-trip inspection is, I know it's hard to see in the sun, but you can see that the hazard lights are flashing, the headlights are on. Up front, all our marker lights are on and are working. We're also going to be looking for any damage. As we're outside in the front, look for damage on top of the truck, look for damage on the windshields, and any damage in the front. Coming around, we're going to go back to this tire again. Again, it's going to be the same thing. You're going to look at tire treads, you're going to look at these lug nuts, leaf springs, and U-bolts. Again, 4/32 for the front tires. As we come around to the side, now again, we're starting to look for damage on the truck. And you're just going to continue to walk down the side, look for any damage. Coming to the rear tires, same thing. You're going to look at the tire treads. Make sure you look at both tires, right? A lot of people only check this outside tire. Make sure you also check both tires. Coming back here, we're going to look at the fuel cap, make sure that it's on. Again, panning away, looking at the full side of the vehicle, make sure there's no damage. Coming around to the back, we're going to look at the rear of the truck. We're going to start over here. We're going to look to make sure that the lights are working, marker lights are on, that the camera is not broken or dirty. Then you're going to peer down the side. These lights are working. Make sure that the light for the license plate's working. And then you want to make sure that your door is shut and locked. You don't want to be driving around with your door like that. You want to make sure that it is locked properly. Come around to this side, same thing, looking for damage. Then when we get to the tires, same again, make sure you check both tires, okay? And again, checking lug nuts and leaf springs and U-bolts. Then we're gonna come back around and we're gonna end up where we started. So we checked the entire outside the van, very short and sweet. Now we're gonna go underneath the hood. All right, when you're under the hood, we're gonna be looking at fluids. So you wanna look at, this is your wiper fluid. This is your coolant. You wanna make sure that it is full to the proper level. Then we're gonna come around, we're gonna look for, this is our steering fluid. It is full, it's fine, it's to the proper level. And we're looking for the oil. So this is where the oil is. Looking for the oil dipstick. Oh, it's back. So we have two dipsticks back there. We have our transmission fluid and our oil fluid. You would pull those out and you would go ahead and look at those. The oil, when you pull out that dipstick, it should be clean. It should not be black and dirty. And then the transmission fluid should be listed at the proper level, whether it is hot or cold. The transmission fluid should also be clean. While we're under the hood, after checking the fluids, we're going to look at any type of belts. Make sure that the belts are still taut and that there are no cracks on the belts. Let's see, maybe on this side. So down here, down in there are the belts. So that's what you want to look at. Looking for any type of cracks and or damage. So those are the belts. Again, looking for cracks or damage or that the belts are loose. We just completed our outside the pre-trip. We're going to go inside the cab and do inside the pre-trip. And we're going to explain how to get in and out of the vehicle properly. It's called 3 points of contact. 1 point is the handle. 2 point would be the step, and your 3rd point is the ground. This helps you prevent yourself from falling or slipping when you enter or exit the vehicle. Okay, once in the vehicle, once you're in the driver's seat, you want to look and see, number one, that you have your hazmat book, and you're going to have your accident packet here as well. Hopefully you don't ever need the accident packet. Then we're going to come up to here. We're going to hit the steering wheel. We're going to press the horn, make sure the horn works. We're going to turn on our wipers. The wipers work, okay? We're going to shut off the hazards. We're going to make sure that the seatbelt is operational and works. Make sure that you don't have a lot of steering play in your steering wheel. You're going to check your fluid levels and your gauges up here to make sure that those are all functional. And then you're going to look down on the ground, and underneath your seat in this vehicle is your 3 safety triangles. So you would open that up and make sure that you have 3 safety triangles. And then if you look up there, you want to make sure that this is charged. So you're going to look up here and make sure that arrow is in the green. It's not past the green or before the green, which would be under or overcharged. This has to be mounted, but mounted in a way that if there is a fire, that it's possible for you to grab it. And lastly, you've got to make sure that this cargo or the cargo door is secured and shut while you're traveling. And you're going to check your mirrors while you're in your seat, okay? You're looking, make sure that the mirrors are not damaged and make sure that you have proper vision, and you're going to check those mirrors. And then looking this side out, making sure you don't have any damage to your windshield or windows. And then your lastly would be your parking brake. On this vehicle, the parking brake's over here. You would apply the brake, then put the vehicle in drive. Don't press the gas, and then you're just going to see if the vehicle moves forward. If the vehicle moves forward, you need to have your parking brake tightened. If the parking brake still doesn't work after it's tightened, then your parking brake is broken. that concludes our pre-trip inspection, which summarized outside the vehicle and inside the cab. After your long day, you are required to do a post-trip inspection, which has to be documented. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a quick post-trip inspection. The post-trip is just basically a walk around to make sure that your vehicle will be functional and ready to run tomorrow morning. So we're just going to look at the tires. We're just looking for any wear in the tires or any damage to the tires. We're going to come around to the front. We're going to go underneath the truck, and you're going to look underneath, and you're going to look for anything leaking. You want to be able to spot this now, so that way when you come in the morning and your truck's fully loaded, that you don't have a giant leak, whether it's a transmission leak or an oil leak. Then we'll come around to the sides. We're going to just be looking for any damage that might have happened to the vehicle throughout your day, and we're looking at the tires, looking at the sides of the truck. Everything looks good. Rear tires, one thing to check, look in between the tires. Make sure that there wasn't anything that while you drove around today, that there wasn't anything lodged in there. Tires all look great. Coming around the side, don't see any damage. Back of the truck, you're looking for any possible damage to your bumper area or to any part of the back of the truck. Everything still looks great, still looks functional. Come around to the side again. Again, we're going to spot the sides, no damage. Looking at the tires again, making sure that we look in between both tires, looking for anything that possibly that was wedged in between those tires. And we're coming around to the front, and the main key of the post-trip inspection, again, is per DOT. It has to be documented. And certain motor carriers will allow you to document whether there's any defects with this vehicle or not through your scanner. If you do check no defects, that is a DOT document. And if you do check that there's a defect, you cannot drive that vehicle until that defect is fixed. If you drive the vehicle with the defect, you can get pulled over and that vehicle could be placed out of service. So in summary, the pre-trip is done before you leave in the morning. If that does not have to be documented, but per DOT, the driver should be knowledgeable and should feel comfortable that his vehicle is safe to operate. And then the post-trip, per DOT, has to be documented, and some motor carriers will let you document that on the scanner. Thank you for your time.
Part 396.13 of the handbook states, drivers shall be satisfied their vehicles are in safe operating conditions before driving. Here's a sample pre-trip summary guide that can be used to ensure you comply with Part 396.13. You can access this guide later at the URL shown here. Part 396.11 states that a driver vehicle inspection report, or DVIR, must be completed by each driver after each day's work for each vehicle operated. Drivers must complete the DVIR whether or not they find safety defects. Any defects that would affect the safe operation of the vehicle must be repaired before the vehicle can be operated again. If any defects are found, drivers must report them to the motor carrier via the DVIR. The DVIR must be signed to confirm the repairs were completed and the report retained by the motor carrier. Again, all drivers must complete a driver vehicle inspection report. Some motor carriers have automated this Department of Transportation required task using a scanner at the end of each day's work to ensure compliance. Drivers should beware that marking no defects on a scanner when defects exist is considered falsifying a Department of Transportation document and could result in disqualification of a driver from driving for a motor carrier. Now let's take a look at post-trip requirements. A post-trip inspection, which is documented on the DVIR, helps provide safe and efficient service by finding any defects before a vehicle is loaded with packages the next morning. The report must cover at least the following parts and accessories, and if a vehicle is found to have any of the following items with defects, then it shall not be dispatched with packages. These include service brakes, including trailer brake connections, parking brakes, the steering mechanism, lighting devices and reflectors, tires, horn, windshield wipers, rear vision mirrors, coupling devices, wheels and rims, and emergency equipment. Department of Transportation guidelines also state that no motor carrier or its drivers may operate commercial motor vehicles or cause or permit such vehicles to be operated unless they are equipped in accordance with the requirements and specifications of Part 393 of the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations Handbook. No person shall aid, abet, encourage, or require a motor carrier or its drivers to violate the rules of the handbook. Furthermore, any person who violates the rules set forth in the handbook may be subject to civil or criminal penalties. Regardless of the size or weight of the vehicle, service providers agree to ensure that all commercial motor vehicles leased to FedEx Ground under this agreement are inspected and maintained as set forth in 49 CFR Parts 393 and 396. Furthermore, all service provider personnel assigned to operate a commercial motor vehicle under this agreement are trained to conduct pre-trip and post-trip inspections consistent with DOT prescribed requirements. When a commercial motor vehicle enforcement official or a local enforcement official requests a roadside inspection, commercial motor vehicle operators must comply. In accordance with Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations Handbook Part 396-9D, a driver must deliver a copy of any driver vehicle examination report to the motor carrier within 24 hours. To assist the motor carrier with meeting regulatory requirements, it is preferred that service provider personnel submit reports to the driver domiciled station. However, the report may also be submitted to another of the motor carrier's locations. Approved methods of delivery of the roadside inspection reports include, but are not limited to, email, fax, or hand delivery. If a driver did not receive a copy of the report or has misplaced the report, the service provider is responsible for obtaining another copy to turn into the motor carrier. A request for replacement documentation can be submitted through the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's Data Queues website. Depending on the type of violation, specific steps, including obtaining required documentation, must be completed prior to a service provider assigning a driver to provide services or prior to a motor carrier tendering packages or service offerings to a service provider's equipment operating under the motor carrier's operating authority. Violations are assigned by law enforcement to the driver and/or vehicle. Violation types include the following. Vehicles cannot operate on the highway under the motor carrier's operating authority until all defects or deficiencies have been corrected, accompanied by appropriate documentation, or they can be contested with the proper documentation. Driver violations may result in the service provider not assigning the driver to provide services under an agreement with the motor carrier. Service providers agree not to assign services to personnel who have received an out-of-service driver violation order or who are not properly licensed for reasons that include but are not limited to the lack of an up-to-date medical certification. Out-of-service violations pose an imminent hazard to the operator and/or the motoring public. They require immediate action prior to removing any out-of-service decal. Enforcement officials may request that units be towed to repair facilities, or they may allow violations to be resolved where they took place. Corrections to out-of-service violations involving the vehicle and/or driver must be made or contested and supported by proper documentation as outlined above for all violations before allowing operation under the motor carrier's operating authority. Finally, local code violations that result in citations being issued based upon local laws may or may not appear on driver vehicle examination reports.